And a TGIF, everyone. Welcome into the First Call podcast. First Bet and Xpressbet representing here. We've got a big weekend of stakes in Louisiana and Saudi Arabia, of all places. Jeremy Plonk alongside with Scott Shapiro to handicap the races this weekend. We'll get some handicapping help from Michelle Yu of First. She is on the scene in Saudi Arabia, so we'll get her picks locally as well. A lot to talk about this weekend, Scott, and of course, Triple Crown preps. We've got a couple of them at Sunland Park on Sunday. It's the Sunland Derby, and the big one for the weekend comes up Saturday in the Risen Star.
Yeah, the Risen Star has one of the top contenders for the Derby as of a few months ago, or maybe always, the pricey Paladin, who was 2 for 2. He didn't cross the wire first in his first start, but he lost. He was placed first via disqualification with Renegade, who ran pretty well, thankfully for us last week, and gave us a little life, or gave, my future's a little bit of life in the Derby situation after the Cannoneer effort. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the Risen Star. The depth not there like usual, and I could say the same for the stakes races supporting cast. But there's some really good maiden races on tap. So if those are something that you like, there's some really good races there with horses that could end up being stakes horses before too long.
If you're betting today on Friday, we've got a carryover to talk about at Santa Anita and Gulfstream. It's the Sunset Pick 6, a carryover of $33,000. Final 3 races on the card at Gulfstream, races 8, 9, and 10. Final 3 races on the card at Santa Anita make up that $1 minimum 15% takeout wager. Been a lot of carryovers in the Sunset 6 and the Coast to Coast Pick 5, so be sure to check out those wagers. At Gulfstream Park, they're up almost to $500,000 in the Rainbow 6 carryover, and if it's not hit on Friday or Saturday, note there will be a mandatory payout on Sunday in the Rainbow 6 at Gulfstream Park. Could be up there 550-ish, maybe 600,000 in the carryover, and a huge pool set for Sunday if the carryover in the Rainbow 6 goes 2 more days. But again, we got racing action Friday and Saturday at Gulfstream. And Gulfstream is one of our locations where we'll have a stakes race to handicap. So for those of you on our traditional audio channels, let's take a look at the races Scott and I are going to handicap over the next half hour or so. For those of you on our video channels, be sure to pound that subscribe button and help us out here with the audience. Give us your comments in the comments section of YouTube and on X, and tell us who you like in some of these stakes races. The Fairgrounds will go. Big Stakes Day includes 4 that we will handicap, starting with the older males and the Mineshaft prep for the New Orleans Classic. The Fairgrounds on the turf, the Rachel Alexandra for the 3-year-old fillies on the Fairgrounds Oaks Trail, and then the Risen Star leg 3 of 4 on the Louisiana Derby Series. They've had the Gun Runner, they've had the LeCompte, we've got the horses who won both those races back in the Risen Star. 50 Kentucky Derby qualifying points, the first 50 qualifier of the season on the line in the Risen Star. To Gulfstream Park, we go for the Royal Delta in the Distaff division. To Santa Anita, the San Marcos going long on the turf with a veteran cast very familiar with one another. Laurel Park's got their big winter sprint fest day on Saturday. The Barbara Fritchie featured the new post time stakes, the former John B. Campbell. And then, of course, they'll also have the General George. But we will handicap and spotlight the Barbara Fritchie from Laurel on Saturday. And to Saudi Arabia, we'll go where a huge program is in store for a Saturday night card in Saudi Arabia. It'll get underway about 8 a.m. in the east in the United States to King Abdulaziz Racecourse in Saudi Arabia. We will talk about the $20 million Saudi Cup, and we will get Michelle Yu's pick for all the major stakes races on that card coming up a little bit later in the podcast. So be sure to stick around for that. She is on the scene in Riyadh. Up to $10 money back special on the Triple Crown preps when you bet with First Bet and Xpressbet all season long. That includes 3 races this weekend. You get up to $10 back in your account if your win bet finishes 2nd or 3rd in the Saudi Derby on Saturday morning, the Risen Star on Saturday afternoon, or the Sunland Derby on Sunday afternoon. So a lot to talk about there in terms of the promotions. Scott, we also got a 2 million point hit and split. So your first rewards points really rack up to the tune of 2 million on Saturday at Fairgrounds. Late pick 4. I know you've done the handicapping on that and have a blog ready for the fans.
I sure do. It's up on the blog. It's been there for a little while, so it won't be the first one up. But yeah, 2 million points, that ends up being real cash if you'd like it to. Other opportunities as well. And we're actually going to kick off the show by rattling off those 4 stakes races that make it up. So if you're into that sequence, which I'm assuming most racing fans are, going into this weekend, this is the right time for you, starting now.
All right, let's go to race number 9 on Saturday in New Orleans at the Fairgrounds. It's the Grade 3 Mineshaft Stakes, $250,000 here, named for the former Horse of the Year, trained by Neil Howard, one of the great good guys in all of racing. Never had a conversation with Neil Howard that I didn't thoroughly enjoy, one of the real gentlemen of the game. The Mineshaft Stakes, field of 7 in this one, Scott. Some horses who have matched up against each other. The Louisiana Stakes was part of the undercard on the Lecomte Stakes program, so several of those horses are back here.
They sure are, including the winner, Accelerize, and it was a Brad Cox runner that just missed that day, and just a touch that took a lot of money. And they're likely going to have to beat one again. This time it'll be one likely coming from well out of it, and Hit Show making his first start as a 6-year-old. He's the one to beat in here, but I don't necessarily think he's the one to bet. I know he's got a good record if you look at the mile and a 16th distance, but he hasn't really been traveling that, other than I know last time, or the Louisiana last year when he got when he came rolling over the slot. But I'm going to take this race at face value. Think he's going to have a little bit of work to do when they turn for home. And I think there's a couple of horses that are coming out of that Louisiana that are going to be bigger prices than they should be, because that was a day where the inside was very good to be, and Accelerize took advantage of that. Cadet Corps, who finished third, also did to an extent, but angled out to finish. And Moonlight, who, has no speed and might be up against it again, really had no chance in that race. No one really was making up a ton of ground from the back. Swung wide, really just wasn't his day. And if you look recently at some of his figures and just kind of looking how he performs, more importantly, he's kind of an in and outing horse at this point as a early 5-year-old. So I'm hopeful that happens again, because those are the kinds of horses, if you look, when they're in, they're usually forgotten a little bit by the public, and they go off at 6-7 to 1 when maybe they should be 4 or 5 to 1.
The price could be right on Moonlight. We'll see if he can improve off that Louisiana Stakes that was won by Accelerize.
As they turn for home here in the Louisiana Stakes, Cadet Corps pulled to the far outside for a bid. As Accelerize leads them past the quarter pole in 1 minute 11.58 seconds. Accelerize just a touch now with his challenge in the furlong grounds. Willie D's toward the inside. Cadet Corps is running in 4th. Sir Grayland in 5th. Moonlight 6th on the far outside. Just a touch. Just a touch for Ira Ortiz Jr. has taken a short lead from Accelerize, who battles. Just a touch all the way down to the finish. Cadet Corps joins them too. It's Accelerize. Accelerize gamely. Accelerize repels just a touch through that daunting Fairgrounds stretch. Cadet Corps was 3rd. Accelerize 3 on the card for Flavien Prat.
Speaking of Flavien Prat, he's not going to be the hot hand this weekend, because he's going to be in Saudi Arabia riding several American jockeys overseas. You got Flavien Prat, Ira Ortiz, Jose Joel Rosario, Junior Alvarado, quite a few jocks heading over for that Saudi Cup card. So we're not going to see those jocks here at Fairgrounds. And because Fairgrounds kind of has like the big races for the weekend, they've pulled some jocks out of other colonies. Luis Saez not riding Oaklawn on Saturday. He'll be at Fairgrounds. John Velasquez not riding in Florida. He'll be at Fairgrounds. So a lot of jockey musical chairs. When you're handicapping this weekend and you look down and you say, well, wait a minute, my guy went from, my horse went from, this rider to that rider. There's a lot of changes in the jockey colony this weekend at the big circuit, Scott.
Yeah, and I would not let it bother you, like you're saying, when it comes to overthinking intent. Excuse me.
Yeah.
What I would do, and I like to try to do, especially in 2-turn races, more so on the turf, but maybe consider the style of the rider and how that might impact his or her chances. Just looking at this race, one example, Paco Lopez rode Cadet Corps last time. It's Brian Hernandez this time. Just one example. Both very good riders. One a little bit, you can count on Brian to be consistently on the inside and not overly aggressive. Paco a little more aggressive. So just one way to look at it there.
Little jockey news: Paco Lopez injured and out for a bit. So there's a lot of news in the riding colony around the country for this coming weekend for sure. To Fairgrounds 10th race we go on Saturday. The Mineshaft was the 9th. The Fairgrounds Stakes is race number 10. This is a race grade 375,000 a mile and an 1/8 on the turf. This will be the prep for the Mervyn Muniz Stakes, the big turf race of the meet at Fairgrounds, which will come up, of course, on Louisiana Derby Day. And some horses that we've seen seen in the Muniz and in this race in the past, a pretty familiar group of horses back in here. You got the likes of a Brilliant Birdie, Gigante has been in a lot of these races. Lajinos has been in a lot of these races. And Capuna's a horse who's got, I know, is coming off a win last time out in the Colonel E.R. Bradley Stakes, that being on the Lecomte undercard. This is a pretty familiar group with each other.
Yeah, the wild card in there is probably the class of the field, number 2, Brilliant Birdie. I almost went to him in here. I think he's the other one that I would use on all tickets. Mm-hmm. But, coming back off a little bit of a layoff, a mile and an eighth, this is probably, Cherie's pretty much telling you, if you follow her over the years, this is not the spot they're looking to peak in. But the horses coming out of the Colonel Bradley into this race, the Fairgrounds, this is a grade 3. You're getting almost twice as much for the purse. They're in this to win this, and that includes Capuna as well as Lajinos, who ran 1-2 last time. I thought Lajinos, the old Lajinos, would have won that race, Jeremy. Mm-hmm. I'm a little bit worried that he's become a little bit camera shy or just not quite what he used to be. But he was really, very little match for Capuna late, who was really turned a corner again. I mean, this is a cool horse. I remember this at the beginning of this horse. He's 7 now. He's earned almost $700,000. Norm Cassie and Flying P claimed him for $100,000 at Churchill and moved him to the turf right away back in November. And he's coming home with those late pace ratings that you and I love to see, a 104 and a 108 in the last couple, Brisnet late pace rating. So I think he's going to be tough to hold off here unless somehow I'm a little concerned that Saez will be happy to be 2-3 wide in here when a horse like Brilliant Birdie will be stuck to the rail. That's my only concern.
You mentioned Caputo claimed for $100,000 towards the tail of his 6-year-old year. That was a pretty bold move, and it's paid off. He's already won a couple stakes, or 1 stakes last time out in the Colonel E.R. Bradley.
And the millionaires on the move, Lajinos, as they come toward the quarter pole. Sandpipes toward the inside, Handy. Capuna on the front side with a bid. 3/4 in 1 minute 13.46 seconds. Theismann is still there. Lajinos now let loose by Jose Ortiz. Here's Capuna, who's motoring home too. Sandpipes cameo performance with a rail rally. It's Capuna. Went to the front from Luis Saez. From to the inside, Lajinos, who battles Capuna to the finish of the Colonel E.R. Bradley to Capuna. Capuna has conquered Lajinos. Cameo performance 3rd, then Sandpipes and Regenswit.
John G. Dooley on the mic with all these local calls, and we'll get to hear him with his race calls this weekend at the Fairgrounds. Scott's top pick, he's going to look for Capuna to double up on stakes at the meet in the Fairgrounds. To Fairgrounds race number 11 we go, the Rachel Alexandra, named for the great Kentucky Oaks and Preakness winner back, 2009 for Rachel Alexandra. Her namesake race is a prep for the Fairgrounds Oaks, mile and a 16th here, grade 2 company, $300,000 in a field of 8. Bella Ballerina is a Godolphin runner here for trainer Brendan Walsh, 2 for 2 after winning the Golden Rod. We've seen some of these Godolphin fillies kind of come back from 2 to 3 in recent years and have good spring lead-ups into the Kentucky Oaks season. They're not always necessarily the fastest speed figures and the flashiest horses, but quality runners who just kind of maintain that form from 2 to 3. Do you think Bella Ballerina will do it again after winning the Golden Rod last fall? She's first out in about 4 months.
Yeah, one of the ones you speak of that's kind of been a pattern of success down here is her sibling, one Pretty Mischievous, right? Mm-hmm. Who was out of the same Damn Pretty City Dancer. This one's done nothing wrong so far. You went on debut for Brendan Walsh, who was winning with everything in early October, so I didn't really take all that much of it. Although winning by over 4 lengths at Keeneland to kick off your career against 10 other rivals is strong. But then, I think that half-length win in the Golden Rod's better than looks. There was a real runoff type speed horse in that race. Mm-hmm. And Bella Ballerina was in a position, a tough one in my – I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly why, but watching races over the years, stretching out for the first time and being in sort of chase mode, ridden patiently, but still, you're that first horse ahead. You've got to make that first move towards the speed or they're just going to keep going essentially. And this filly, made that move and was able to sustain it to the wire, even though they were catching up from the back. So I think that bodes well for her. Brendan Walsh takes the pedal off the metal, gives her some time. Clearly looking to have her peak on the first Saturday in May. Rachel Alexandra, you would think one of the big preps, either the Ashland or the Louisiana or the Fairgrounds Oaks, right. And then hopefully on the Kentucky Oaks. We get 2 to 1. I don't think this filly is some lock to win the Kentucky Oaks or anything.
Right.
If we get 2-1, I might have to get the Brinks truck out for that. That ain't happening.
Well, back it up and see how much money you can get out of it on Bella Ballerina. She's going to have to beat Just Singing in here again. It was a length difference between those two in the Goldenrod, and it's the first start of the year for both. Kent Sweezy brings Just Singing from Palm Meadows, Florida, winter base. We'll see you in the rematch. Here's how they ran at Churchill back in November.
As they come for the top of the stretch, Let Me Count the Ways has lost the lead. Bella Ballerina first off the turn. Let Me Count the Ways back into second. But here comes Atropa. Here comes Life of Joy. Here comes Just Singing. They're deep in the final furlong. And Bella Ballerina's kicked away by 3. Atropa with a fast finish. Just Singing with a fast finish. Bella Ballerina holds on. Bella Ballerina.
Tyler Gaffleona be aboard Bella Ballerina. He was aboard last year, so no change of rider in that one, looking to run out 3 in a row. We go from the fillies and the Rachel Alexandra in race number 11 to the 12th and final on the card Saturday at the Fairgrounds. It's the Grade 2 Risen Star, part of my countdown to the Crown Series. $500,000 Grade 2 event here. 50 Derby qualifying points to the winner, which means you're in the field. If you win this, it's a win and you're in, essentially, towards the Kentucky Derby in terms of qualifying. We're used to seeing this be an 11-horse field. It's averaging an 11-horse field over the last 6, 7, 8 years. The fact that it's only an 8-horse field, I don't know if it's a sign of the times or people don't want to come in to take on a particular horse. Is Paladin scaring anybody away? Is it more of a sign of the times with the smaller fields? The way the rest of the undercard fields, it seems like Fairgrounds has struggled a little bit in terms of maintaining some of that historical field size that they're used to enjoying.
Yeah, I was there for a couple of those 3 years, in fact, for this card. And they were some of the best cards I've ever, dove into and analyzed. And I say that because I am partial to handicapping maiden specials and allowances for young horses early on. One thing you don't see on this card is the first level allowance they used to feed directly into the Louisiana Derby. You'd always hear people talking about how, that race is going to be better than the Risen Star moving forward. Horse like Banishing, I think, was the favorite in there if you wait several years back when in the Brennan Walter farm. But yeah, I agree. I don't want to say I'm disappointed because those were some of the best cards all year for a mid-February card in Louisiana. And almost, this is still a very, very good card. But when I'm looking at this race, I don't know if anybody's scared away. I don't think that's what it is. I think the bigger purses have people maybe at Oaklawn for, the average barn or the average. But it really is a race. And this took me a little while over the course of the week. At first, I'm like, if Paladin, and I said this to you, if Paladin doesn't win this race and runs a close second, kind of like, Chad's Zandon did, I'm not going to really hold it against them. And you and another one of our colleagues kind of was like, you sure? Looking back over it, I think if we have the Derby winner in this race, Paladin, he's supposed to win this field, beat this field with his B effort, right?
He is the individual favorite for the Kentucky Derby Future Wager, which offered now, Friday noon. It opened all the way through Sunday at 6 p.m. So Kentucky Derby Future Wager this weekend. Mike Battaglia, the morning line maker at Churchill Downs, also does the Future Wager odds. He made Paladin the individual wagering choice. And, of course, it's all going to be based on the result this weekend. If he runs and he wins, he will be the favorite, I think, in the Kentucky Derby Future Wager. If he gets beat on Saturday, then obviously his price is going to lift in that Future Wager. And then you, as a future forecaster, will have to kind of determine whether or not that defeat is a good thing for your price or a bad thing for his prospects, depending on the reasons behind why he may get beat. But I think if he is a Kentucky Derby major contender, which I do believe that he is, then he's got to get through this field because I don't think it's the strongest field that's lined up so far this year. We do have the winners of the Lecomte Stakes in Golden Tempo. We have the winner of the Gun Runner Stakes in the other Fairgrounds Louisiana Derby Series race in Chip Honcho. I don't think Chip Honcho's a really classic distance kind of horse. I think he kind of caught the back end of that Gun Runner Stakes and was able to, outlast him in there. But I don't think that same scenario didn't work for him in the Lecomte. And now you get a little bit deeper field than even the Lecomte in terms of top-end horses in here from out of town with Universe shipping in, Courting shipping in, and a horse like Paladin coming in. I don't think it bodes well for the Gun Runner winner in here, Chip Honcho. The question is, can Golden Tempo keep improving, right? It was a very, very good debut. He's bred with all that Phipps pedigree on the dam side, golden tempo, bred to go long. The fact that he debuted for Sharitaville and won at 6 furlongs, rocketing from the back of the pack, he's probably a step ahead of where you thought, right? You figure you start in a maiden sprint and then break your maiden second time going long. He got ahead of the game, and then also his second start then automatically kind of rose him up into the stakes ranks, and he ran a good race. It wasn't a dominant race in the Lecomte. He got an inside trip in there, but he's got to move forward one more time, I think, if he's going to beat a horse as good as I think Paladin can be.
Well, Paladin's ran faster races as a 2-year-old. I'm a Thoroughgraph guy, but pretty much anywhere you look, he's just run faster races. And you have, we're assuming that's the thing with Paladin here is you're making the assumption that he's just got better over, we've obviously seen plenty of horses never get back to 2-year-old seasons, but the progression was there in his first 2 races. He, Chad kind of knows what he's doing with this certain kind of horse, the longer distance type, has brought his best ones back in this race with Sierra Leone and Zan in a couple of years when he's had kind of his best chances to win the Derby. It really would bode, maybe Golden Tempo just continues to get that much better. If otherwise, I think this is going to come back a very, very unflattering edition of the Risen Star if Paladin doesn't win.
You mentioned Paladin. You mentioned that connection to Sierra Leone in terms of the pattern. Both came out of the Remsen, went to the Risen Star, and, of course, on to the Bluegrass. That would be the plan, I would think, with Paladin as well. Both offspring of Gunrunner as well for trainer Chad Brown. So he's going the Sierra Leone route. And if it works as well for Paladin as it did for Sierra Leone, things are going to be pretty good for him. Let's go back to the Remsen Stakes, where Paladin was best that day over Renegade, who returned last week to win the Sam F. Davis.
To go, Balboa and Day One Starter are still there. Renegade and Paladin, they hook up again on the grandstand side. It's Balboa who's in front. Paladin and Renegade battling on in between horses, and the boys are at it again. It's Paladin and Renegade. They've got a 16th left to go. Paladin to the outside edge is clear. Paladin will win the Grade 2 Remsen. Paladin wins it over Renegade.
Paladin had a little fitness edge that day. Renegade was really short on the workout tab for the horses coming out of the same race. Paladin was training much better and more consistently leading into that Remsen stake. So where are they at 3? We're going to find out a lot. They may be the 2 favorites for the Kentucky Derby after this weekend. If Paladin delivers, we'll see how the fans bet in the Kentucky Derby future wagering. Couple other notes here about the Risen Star before we move on. Lecomte Stakes runner-up Mesquite for Cherie DeVoe announced off the Triple Crown Trail yesterday with the physical setback. So that's why you're not seeing the Lecomte runner-up Mesquite back. And if you're someone who is going to back Mesquite in that Kentucky Derby future wagering suspended on that horse now. So take Mesquite out of the Triple Crown Trail. The other one in here I wanted to mention, Scott, is Courting. $5 million full to Clairiere. Of course, she was a grade 1 winner, multi-millionaire on the racetrack for Steve Asmussen. Courting is by Curlin, out of Cavorting, and again, a full to Clairiere. 4th in the Remsen in that race that we just saw, didn't factor in there. You wonder, can Todd get a forward move out of Courting? Because this is the kind of horse you want to be a Triple Crown type runner.
Yeah, I'm going to have to let him beat me, and I'm hoping others will allow the lack of kind of upside of the Chip Honchos of the world, who I do think will find his way into a better effort than last time and probably either peaks for this race or we won't see him again until the cutback, like to your point. But with the blinkers coming off and Louis, I give him a forgive more last time. It just wasn't his day. But Courting, he's got 2 very ordinary efforts. One of them was against this level. Another one was on debut. I mean, it was an okay field at Aqueduct. And then he wins a race at 1-5 in a 4-horse field. We've seen grittiness. We know who he is.
Yeah.
He's not all that much.
This second in the Withers, he's still a maiden.
He was all out to get second in a race dominated by a horse that I think a lot of us still have questions about outside of if you're a figures guy. So, yeah, I'm hoping Courting gets some money because those, blinkers, there's reasons to like the horse. To me, he's a $5 million horse that wasn't wowing people at the sales. He's a $5 million horse because of his pedigree. So maybe it'll work out for them. It's also a long game play. This was probably what they were hoping to do, get to the Derby. But still, I mean, this isn't necessarily Derby pedigree. This is just Regal pedigree.
All right, that's a look at the Risen Star. Wrap up our action at Fairgrounds on Saturday. $10 money back special on that Risen Star stakes. If your win bet finishes second or third and you bet with FirstBet and XpressBet, you'll get up to $10 back in wagering credits into your account a couple days later. So be sure to take advantage of those money back specials. We've got one for the Risen Star coming up on Saturday. Back to the schedule we go for Saturday, February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there, of course. Gulfstream Park, race number 11, the Royal Delta Stakes, where we're going to head next. The Royal Delta, of course, named for multiple Breeders' Cup Distaff winner Royal Delta, the Bill Mott trainee from the 2010s. Mile and a 16th on the main track here, so they're going to have a short run to the first turn and a short run to that 16th pole finish line for the Royal Delta Stakes. Interesting group in here, Scott. Senza Parole looks like a horse who started off the career and had a lot of hype behind, right? And had could be Chad Brown's next Good Night Olive type runner. Shred the Gnar has been unbelievable for trainer Brian Lynch, winning 3 straight, including the Chaluki Stakes, to wrap up her 3-year-old season. She's the 6-5 morning line favorite on Brian Natto's morning line. Shred the Gnar, Senza Parole, they're brilliant types, but I know you like a filly who's proven over the route of ground, and she's actually a horse who's gone better farther than the mile and a 16th. Tell us about your pick in here, Drexel Hill.
Yeah, I just think there's a lot of pace. You mentioned Shred the Gnar. You mentioned Senza Parole, who's down on the inside. Miguel Vasquez, in terms of jockey bow, change ups. This is a big one for him. He doesn't ride for Chad very well much at all. He still has Miguel Vasquez. Yeah. I mean, this is a filly that, came back to life in the last couple, still hasn't come close, in my opinion, to that dominant debut that sidelined her for over a year. She's a pass for me, but I respect. Shred the Gnar is the one to beat. Brian Lynch horses have been very tough to expect to run down. But Dazzling move to the outside, the other one to the inside. You've got, I think Drexel Hill is just going to get the trip. Javier Castellano should just be able to, second off the layoff, sit back. Another late pace play here. The late pace rating on Briz, 100. Yes, we will take endorsements for the commercial. No, I'm just kidding. Drexel Hill, though, going to be the best finisher in this race. We'll just see if she can do it over the Gulfstream Park main track and she gets the setup.
She's only had 2 races since her Kentucky Oaks runner-up, so she's fresh, and she prepped well for this at Tampa. Jason Beam on the mic for the Wayward Lass. Win there by Drexel Hill.
Given the cue there is Drexel Hill from third to go after Runaway Diva as they go midway around the far turn. Runaway Diva 3/4 in front of Drexel Hill, who's pushed to go after this one. Runaway Diva still sitting chilly there. Samuel Marin up top. Meanwhile, Ultimate Authority's up to third. Andrea back fourth. They come to the top of the stretch. Drexel Hill right up alongside of Runaway Diva. Here's Drexel Hill on the outside to poke ahead in front. Runaway Diva tries to counter back toward the inside. They're 2.5, 3 clear of Ultimate Authority as they come by the 8th pole. Drexel Hill to the front. A length now. Runaway Diva switches to the outside. So they have a final 16th to go. Drexel Hill, Runaway Diva, valiant but second best to Drexel Hill. Who's going to go on to win it here. Drexel Hill by 2. Kicks off her 4-year-old campaign in winning fashion.
Scott's top pick in there is Drexel Hill. Drexel. You're going back to your old Philly days there.
Drexel Hill, baby. Nova.
I actually toured Drexel. That was one of the colleges I took a campus visit of back in the day.
Drexel Hill is right by Villanova, I think. Drexel, I had friends that went to Drexel. Yeah, right by LaSalle. Right by LaSalle, right?
Big Five. We could get into some Big Five talk at the Palazzo.
Oh, man. We'd have to start a new channel and we would lose our whole audience unless they really...
Let's switch now and go from Gulfstream to Santa Anita on Saturday. Of course, sister tracks Gulfstream and Santa Anita are going to run that Sunset Pick 6 and Coast to Coast Pick 5 in tandem each and every race day. So you handicap one, be sure to take a look at the other. So we'll go from Gulfstream to Santa Anita next up for the San Marcos. And if you watch Southern California turf racing amongst the handicap division in the last 4 or 5 years, you kind of know who's in this race before the overnight comes out. You're just kind of like, okay, it's going to be Golden Phoenix. It's going to be Stay Hot. It's going to be Endlessly. It's going to be a lot of these horses that we're used to seeing. Mondego's in there. Truly Quality's been transplanted as a West Coast horse. Well, to no surprise, they're all in it again, Scott. And this race kind of looks a lot like what we saw this summer, the Del Mar Handicap. And I want to go back and take a look at the Del Mar Handicap, not necessarily for anything more than a highlight, because what it really does is salute an incredible accomplishment for Golden Phoenix. To win any stakes race in the U.S. 4 years in a row, much less one at Del Mar, is a tremendous accomplishment. Let's go back and take a look this summer at the Del Mar Handicap, where a bunch of these horses are all back in the rematch.
Gold Phoenix is still about 4 lengths off the lead. And then to the inside, Atitlan and Truly Quality. Around the turn they go. And now moving up alongside a final boss is City Exile. The two of them are right together. Endlessly is next. And Gold Phoenix is let loose on the far outside. Stay Hot, who saves ground, splits rivals. Truly Quality trying to come on from the back of the pack. Then Atitlan toward the inside. And on the far outside, Mondego. They're coming into the final 16th. Stay Hot, Gold Phoenix. These two with Atitlan on the inside. And on the outside, Truly Quality. Gold Phoenix! Gold Phoenix did it for the 4th time.
We know how good he is at Del Mar. He's the 9-5 morning line favorite for the San Marcos for trainer Phil D'Amato. Do you like the old man in here, Gold Phoenix? Can he do it again at age 8, or are you going to go for somebody else in this turn around the merry-go-round?
Well, I mean, he has a better chance to win than the horse I like in here, and a couple of them do. But I'm a little worried about the lack of speed. And like you said, he's better at Del Mar. He's just flat out better than Del Mar. And, he's probably a little better with a little more ground than a mile and a quarter, maybe you could argue, which is wild these days in the world we live in.
Yeah.
But I'm going to hope that we can get to the lead. I mean, trying to find who's going to be on the lead here is a very good challenge in pace handicapping. There's nobody obvious in here. I think it'll be a rider's decision. I thought Stay Hot a couple of times in my life was going to do that after the win in the Texas Turf Classic. Really never have shown any interest in that, whether that's the connections or the different jocks aboard. So Twirling Point, you can make the same case for. Wired out of field when he won last, or 2 starts back, but that was a while ago. I'm going to hope the jock at Mistiel Jaramillo is very aggressive out of the gate.
Yes.
First time on Mondego, and if you look, this horse has speed from the past, and he's just been ridden by riders that I find less aggressive than Jaramillo that wanted him to settle. His chance of winning this race is getting to the lead and finding a way to hold off these much classier, stronger resume horses. But I think this is a race where I don't fully trust Truly Quality. I don't fully trust Gold Phoenix to get there. So I'll try number 5, Mondego.
Yeah, whoever makes the front end here has got a chance to really take him a long way. I would say Mondego and the super long shot in here, 50-1, Smooth Salute, are probably the candidates that may want to go under Victor with an inner draw. There's not a lot of speed in here for sure. And Jaramillo, to me, like you said, probably the most aggressive rider early amongst those in this particular field. Mondego, maybe on the front end, the heist, the San Marcos, Scott's pick in race number 7 at Santa Anita. Let's go to Maryland now for the big one on the Winter Sprint Fest card, the Barbara Fritchie, co-featured on the program, of course, with the General George Stakes. The Barbara Fritchie is for the fillies and mares. $200,000 here, 7 furlongs on the main track at Laurel Park, home of the 2026 Preakness Stakes. Take the Money Honey has been absolutely a world beater in her local races. She's won a couple in a row. The Politely, and last time out in the Geisha, she looked awesome. Let's listen to Dave Rodman's call. Take the Money Honey. Can she beat the Shippers?
Take the Money Honey took the heat, but still going strong. From Late Night Call, Northern Glow on the outside, and Kissed by an Angel. And that followed by Spence Syrian, who's next. Then Navani charging one off the inside. Now has a bit of racing room. But Take the Money Honey, 3/16 from the second wire. Finish in the Geisha Stakes. Pouring it on. A 7-8 length lead. Take the Money Honey. Take the Money Honey. Take the money and run. Take the Money Honey by about 9. Here's Navani moving to second, and then Late Night Call. She's too much. Take the Money Honey.
Will she take the money again? She's a head and a nose away from being undefeated in 8 career starts. The Maryland bred, she's won against the state bred. She's won an open company, won the Serena Song at Monmouth. This is the toughest field, though, that she's probably met in her career. She's the 9-5 morning line favorite. Are you going for her, or are you going to try to spring a little upset in Maryland?
I got to try to beat her as the favorite, taking on better competition with a slight cutback here. I don't necessarily think she's going to make the lead. I think being on the lead could be what works out in this race. Expect some other runners in here, but I'm going to go to the 2, Hold Your Breath.
All right.
Oh, sorry. Got her from Mackenzie, who I think is a lot better than her last indicates. Just really didn't fire at 3-5 in a race where they, where it fell apart for Passage East to win it. Should have run better that day, but the price on the board hopefully will reflect the fact that she ran that poor last time and not how good she ran her 2 starts before. So I'll try number 2, Hold Your Breath. Not a super strong opinion.
Well, we're going to have to call 911 there. I was going to have to get the medic alert bracelet out for you on that one.
Do a lot of meditating these days. We're good. We're good.
Hold Your Breath. Scott's top pick in race number 8, the Barbara Fritchie Stakes at Laurel Park. Now we're going to go to our final race to handicap of the weekend. It'll be the first that you see on this list because at King Abdulaziz Racecourse in Saudi Arabia, things are going to get underway early on Saturday morning, East Coast time. 9-race program culminates with the richest race in the world, the $20 million Saudi Cup. Field of international runners in this race and names we know. Breeders' Cup Classic winner, of course, Forever Young, defending champion in this race, going to be one of the headliners. But the Americans are certainly sending over a contingent, Scott. You've got Banishing heading over there, Rattle and Roll. Bob Baffert's got a pair. He's got Nevada Beach, who won the Elsa McGinn Stakes. And, of course, the headliner for Baffert, the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile winner, Nisos. So you have the winner of the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile against the winner of the Breeders' Cup Classic. One race at a mile, one at a mile and a quarter. They meet at a mile and an eighth around one turn. So which way do we lean? Do we go to the Classic winner in Forever Young? Do we go to the mile winner in Nisos? Or do we go to somebody else?
Yeah, not an exciting and creative pick, and I'm not the one you want to turn to for international horse advice. So if any of those runners are in with long shot chances, I apologize. They are not the ones that I have the most confidence in my opinion on. But I think Forever Young is better than the American contingent, plain and simple. Ran a monster race last year in this event to beat was that last year?
Yep.
I'm looking at the Saudi Derby. The Saudi Cup, beat Romantic Warrior by a neck, right? In that race, the best race of the year, probably. I think he's gonna come back and he doesn't face Romantic Warrior. If he's anything that he's supposed to be, meaning his old self, I think he's just better than these horses. No disrespect to the Americans, but I think that they, the last effort between Nisos and Nevada Beach in the Lafitte Pin Kai was fine. I think Forever Young is a different level of animal.
Let's go back to that win last year. Again, he was going head-to-head with Romantic Warrior. It was the richest horse in racing history in terms of earnings. A turf superstar in Hong Kong trying the main track. And what a valiant main track effort he had. But it was the determination of Forever Young that put these two champions on the wire in the photo.
From Forever Young in second place, the two of them are clear from Wilson to Soro and Factor Cheval, two of the great racehorses in the world. And at the moment, Romantic Warrior holds sway. His rider looks across. Forever Young is trying to close and he's beginning to do so. Romantic Warrior from the outside. Forever Young has got to within 3 parts of a length. Romantic Warrior, Forever Young, a race for the ages, and Forever Young rounds off a terrific night for Japan. Runs down Romantic.
Take the money on.
Yeah, so for Forever Young, we've seen that replay before. The previous years you had mentioned in the Saudi Derby when he was 3, he reeled in Bookham Dano, who turned out to be a pretty darn good sprinter to win that Saudi Derby over a mile back in his 3-year-old season. Same kind of style. He's relentless in that stretch in Saudi Arabia. Forever Young's got to be tough in there. What do you make about Nisos going to the mile and an eighth?
I think I'm going to wager on the race because I'm going to try to beat Nisos underneath. No disrespect. You look at this horse's resume, and it's strong. You remember he was going to be the Derby favorite. He was the early Derby favorite, and then he had to, then his campaign ended after the Robert B. Lewis. He's been awesome since, but I think he ran so huge in a couple of those starts. I just don't think he's the same horse as was when he was absolutely his best. And this is the toughest field he's faced. I know you mentioned the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, but we can all be honest. Enjoy the race. I've had some good hits on it. I've gotten beat on it other years, but it's the undercard race to the Breeders' Cup Classic, whereas Forever Young took on the other comers. I know Nisos will have a more favorable distance for his chances, but I'm going to look elsewhere and try to figure out something creative. I have a little while left to go for that. And the past performances did come out pretty late on this one, but I definitely think Nisos is vulnerable here underneath in this race.
I do too. Luxor Cafe is a horse I liked a lot last year going into the Derby season. I think it's kind of ambitious that they're bringing him. And it's a 3-year-old who's now turned 4 that could have a good move this season. Like we saw Forever Young get much better from 3 to his 4-year-old season. So
8-1
Luxor
in the
Cafe
Derby,
interests me a little bit under.
8-1 in the Derby. Luxor Cafe was.
Yeah, that wasn't a good price.
I mean, it just goes to show, even if he was 15-1, it goes to show that the horse people thought, had some talent. So,
well, our Michelle Yu from Santa Anita and First is in Saudi Arabia, part of the international broadcast team, and she's been sending some reports throughout the course of the week. She's been watching the horses train, emceed the post position draw. She's filed her picks for all the major races from Saudi Arabia this weekend, so I'm going to put those up on the screen. I'm going to read them to our folks who are listening in on our traditional audio podcast channels as well. These are top selections. We'll start off in race number 4, the Saudi Derby. Race number 4 on the card, the Saudi Derby. Post time is 9 o'clock Eastern for that race. 1 mile Saudi Derby. Michelle's going to go with Satano Voyage as her top pick in there. Satano Voyage will be number 8 in terms of betting numbers, coming from Japan, coming off a win last time out. In fact, has won 3 straight, looking for 4 in a row. Satano Voyage, 7-2 in the morning line, the pick for Michelle in the Saudi Derby. We've got some American interest in that Saudi Derby. Obliteration, who's a big stakes winner at Oaklawn and last year at Saratoga in the Sanford Stakes, is in that race. My World is in that race out of the Jerome and the Nashua Stakes for trainer Brad Cox. We also have the American Acknowledge Me Please in there for Doug O'Neill, coming off a 3rd in the San Vicente behind So Happy. But it's the Japanese runner, Satano Voyage, Michelle's top pick in race number 4, the Saudi Derby. The Riyadh Dirt Sprint is race number 5 at 6 furlongs on the main track. Breeders' Cup Sprint runner-up last year, Imagination for Bob Baffert, is going to be Michelle's top pick in here. Imagination is going to be betting number 5 in this race, 5-2 in the morning line. The In the Mischief Colt was on the Kentucky Derby trail last year, got to the Santa Anita Derby, ran a good second, missed the Derby, ran in the Preakness Stakes, but once they cut back in distance, found his best stride, winning the Santa Anita Sprint Championship. The Riyadh Dirt Sprint, Imagination, top pick for Michelle. The 1351 Turf Sprint. The Turf Sprint goes as 6 3/4 furlongs, almost 7 furlongs, if you will, on the grass course there. And Lazat is going to be the top pick for Michelle in this particular spot. She's got some prices later on, but Lazat is a 3-1 shot in here in the morning line. Sophie Doyle riding this one, coming off a second place finish in the British Champion Sprint at Ascot in October. And of course, won the Haydock Sprint, or 5th in the Haydock Sprint Cup prior to that. Top class French filly, raced all around, or French gelding, has raced all around the world. Lazat, top choice in that turf sprint race for Michelle. We go to the Neom Turf Cup in race number 7. This is a grade 1. It's the first grade 1 race ever in Saudi Arabia on the turf at 1 mile and 5/16. Michelle's top pick in here. She's going deep into her bag of tricks. She's going for number 4, Galen, 20-1 in the morning line. Big price here. Joseph O'Brien trains, comes off a 4th at big odds last time out in the Hong Kong Cup. Another well-traveled runner from around the Irish home base for Joseph O'Brien. But 20-1 in the morning line. Galen, top pick in race number 7, the Neom Turf Cup from Michelle Yu. The Red Sea Turf Handicap is race number 8 on the card. This is a grade 2 stakes, $2.5 million on the line. And Michelle in race number 8 is going for Tennessee Stud. Tennessee Stud in here, as I scroll through and try to find Tennessee Stud in the past performances, is where is Tennessee Stud in this race? I'm trying to find the betting number for Tennessee Stud. That is number 6 in the betting. Ryan Moore riding here against Joseph O'Brien. This one coming off a French Group 2 stakes win in October. Tennessee Stud, nice price, 8-1 in the morning line. Joseph O'Brien, Ryan Moore teaming up. Race number 8, the 6, Tennessee Stud. And then she's going to wrap it up with Forever Young. Just like Scott and just like me, we think Forever Young, the favorite's going to deliver. He's the 7-5 morning line favorite in race number 8, the Saudi Cup. So those are Michelle Yu's picks there. Take them down. She will be on the broadcast for the Saudi Cup card, and also check out what we get for her from some social media as well. If you're looking for in the Nevada Beach. If you're looking for the Saudi Cup, she's got a top 4. She's got basically Forever Young on top, and then she's taking some Americans with Nevada Beach, the Bafferts, Niso's 3rd, and Tumbarumba is going to be her 4th choice. So Forever Young, Nevada Beach, Niso's, Tumbarumba, the top 4 in the Saudi Cup from Michelle Yu. I'll get a little extra handicapping from around the world to help us out on this Saturday to come. It's going to be a big day in Saudi. Of course, bet 100, get $10 with First Bet and Xpressbet on that Saudi Cup card on Saturday morning. So plenty of reasons to play.
Yeah, the action starts tomorrow being Saturday. We're way past the 24-hour deadline for the Saudis races starting, but it's one of those days with the international racing where you can always get started early and find stuff, but you get good, really high-quality racing from basically when most people wake up till when most people consider going to bed. For me, a couple hours after I wake up, and there'll be more action than I need to. I'll be falling asleep as I try to close out those verticals and horizontals at Santa Anita Park.
What a weekend. You get to see the $20 million Saudi Cup and the Breeders' Cup Classic winner Forever Young, 3 Kentucky Derby points preps, and a Kentucky Derby future wager pool being offered as well. Scott and I will be back next Friday as we handicap more stakes races for you from around the globe like we did this particular week. Have a great weekend, everybody.